Good morning, everyone. This is Curtis Hawks, Executive Vice President over here at Insurance Agency Marketing Services. And I want to thank everybody for taking the time to be on the call today. We've got a really important topic that we're going to be talking about today, which is how to address some of the biggest risks in retirement and going through some different solutions and different ways that you can market around that. So before we get into that, I know we've got a lot of reps on the call today, so I did want to take a minute here to talk a little bit about why IMS and some of the reasons that we're helping advisors grow their business through the challenges they've had this year. One of those is our new producer builders. And so for those of you that are new to IMS or are looking at IMS and considering having a relationship with us, one of the things that we look at is where are you at right now? What do you want your business to look like? And what do we need to do to help you get there? And one great way to do that is through our new producer builder platform. This is a great way to get additional dollars to go towards advertising, or as you can see here, we've got a number of different options available. And so I would encourage everybody to take advantage of this. I would also mention to you as well that if you've got something that you're doing that's working well for you, reach out, talk to a sales director, chat with them about it, and we can always customize this for any rep that we're working with. Next, continuing with our IMS Business Builders, first is our Referred Producer Program. And this is where some of the biggest checks we cut come from. So if you're currently working with IMS and you like what we're doing and you know of an advisor that maybe is in transition or maybe isn't quite happy where they're at, not only will you get a $50 bonus when they get contracted, but you'll get an additional $100 bonus when they write their first piece of business. And then on an ongoing basis, quarterly, you'll get a check based off of their production. You don't have to do anything. We'll take care of all the service. We'll take care of that rep, but you'll get ongoing checks. In addition to that, we have our marketing reimbursement program. And this is a great way to double the size of your budget. So as you're producing business with us, IMS will contribute additional dollars into your marketing budget to help you generate more prospects. Back office support, you know, everybody says they have good back office support. What I would tell you, and I would be right there in that category where I would say we've got some of the best back office support, but I really do think this year with the challenges that COVID has presented, it's really put a spotlight on support as the carriers have gone to having staff work remote, as advisors have seen some challenges at the carrier level. Having a good team of people at your IMO pushing and chasing down information, getting you what you need and trying to push stuff through the system is critically important, as well as a high service level when you need a quote, illustration, forms, any of those types of things. Do want to make a note of Firelight here. If you are not currently registered on the IMS website, we've got a ton of resources, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But e-applications have become a necessity in today's day and age. And so you can see up here, we've got a number of insurance companies that we integrate with, but it makes it really, really quick and easy to get an application in to the carrier in good order. And if you haven't got registered for this, I would encourage you to do so. Again, I've done several e-apps on Firelight myself, and it's nice how when you go through there, it flags anything you miss. So it really makes it simple and easy to make sure you're submitting an app in good order. Our marketing solutions, and I think creative is really the key there. One of the things that I think a lot of advisors have seen over the course of this year is pre-COVID, a lot of reps would be used to doing the same mix of activities, and you repeat that each month and it produces a certain volume of prospects, works well for you. One of the things that we've seen this year is that we've had to innovate some. Some of the things that worked pre-COVID don't work at the same way post-COVID. And so I would encourage everybody, if you haven't taken advantage of this, to reach out to your sales director over here at IMS. We are completing a significant number of marketing analyses, I guess I should say. But this is a great way, if you're looking at 2021 and what you want next year to look like, our team will go through what your current marketing is right now, what your current marketing assets are, what you want next year to look like, and they'll put together a customized 2021 marketing plan for you and go through what we think the volume of prospects will be, what we think the cost will be, all those types of things. So you've got a really good roadmap going into next year for how you're going to attack the year. I mentioned the IAMS website a minute ago. Again, we've got a ton of resources on here, and we're continuing to add to it, but whether it's running quotes, getting forms, getting current rates on the different product lines. We have a significant amount of sales material on the website as well. So if you're looking for best practices for running your business or point of sale pieces, we literally have hundreds of different pieces in our sales resource library that you can get access to. As we know, virtual presentations have quickly become the norm in today's day and age, and so the ability to illustrate different types of concepts visually via video conferencing is critically important. And so Retirement Analyzer is a great platform that really illustrates the impact of life's what ifs on a retirement account, whether it's market volatility, whether it's an LTC event, which we're going to be talking about today, taxation, the death of a spouse, anything that could conceivably happen. This software, in a very simple and straightforward manner, will illustrate the impact that that has on a retirement income stream. And so if you're not currently using this software platform, reach out, talk to your sales director over here. We can get you a demo on it. And if you're producing business with us, we'll actually pay for it for you. So reach out to us, 800-255-5055. IAMS Wealth Management. Right now, there's really never been a better time. If you're thinking about being an IAR, if you're thinking about getting your 65, reach out, talk to Charles and his team. It's a great time of the year to look at doing this. If you're currently licensed and maybe you're not quite happy with your current relationship, reach out to us as well. Talk to Charles and his team, what they can do and how we might be able to work with you. So with that, we'll go ahead and get into the main part of our presentation. So today we're going to be talking about asset-based long-term care. And as I had mentioned, many people, when they think about retirement, they think about the biggest expenses in retirement. They think of leisure, travel, family, those types of things. In reality, for most individuals in retirement, their biggest challenges or their biggest risks in retirement are going to be healthcare and taxes. Those are going to be the biggest expenses they face. And so an LTC event can dramatically drain a retirement nest egg. And so today we've got a very special guest. We've got Roger Cantu, Regional VP over at OneAmerica, and he's going to be going through what the opportunity is in this marketplace, the products that they offer, and talk a little bit about some sales concepts and how to market it. So Roger, we appreciate you being on the call today with us.
Curtis, thank you. I appreciate everyone taking the time, especially over a holiday week, to roll up your sleeves and learn, especially in perhaps a new area for some of you. Now, it's not a new area for me. I don't know. Some of you may know my name. I know I've worked with IAMS for, a good while now. And if you're familiar at all with OneAmerica, I hope even this presentation will help expand your understanding of where we're unique in the marketplace. That's sort of part one. Part two is isolating two of our plans that fall under a life-based and an annuity-based chassis, and unpack at least that plan in a case study format. And then finally, as Curtis had mentioned there at the end, I'm going to cover a few marketing tools that you may not be aware of and certainly not available with other carriers in this space. So real quick, I want to make a plug for myself. This is I'm going on my 31st year of working with these plans. Now, when I say these plans, I mean these particular products. I got hired in 1990 to work for a company called Golden Rule Insurance, who had developed these life-based first and then eventually annuity-based long-term care solutions. Now, what you may not know is I had a great grandmother who required 13 years of long-term care due to an Alzheimer's situation. 8 in her home, followed by 5 in a facility. And, even at a quite young age, I saw what it did emotionally, financially to the family. And I thought, well, here's a way, for me to wrap my arm around something that, could genuinely help individuals. Right. So I stayed with Golden Rule Insurance for all of those years, 15 total, and marketed and sold these plans, not directly to clients, of course, working with advisors in a wholesaling role. Now, That changed hands to OneAmerica in 2004, and it's been now almost 16 years, right? Same product line. So I followed the products to the new company. That says a lot for the products. Now, you could also say, wow, I couldn't find a better job. But the reality is these things work flawlessly and fit in a place in the market where other hybrid-based solutions don't work. So I want to take about 40 minutes and walk through this again, covering the unique areas of our plans, next the case studies, and finally the marketing aspects that you may not find elsewhere. So I call them USPs. These are unique selling propositions or elements of our portfolio. Notice I didn't say product. We have innumerable solutions to help every part of your market, right, your clients. And that's going to come to fold here as we walk through and unpack these. But let's start with the top 5 areas where, and the plans are called the care solutions. It's a portfolio of products, roughly 3 on a life-based chassis and 3 on an annuity chassis. So number 1, we're the only carrier out there offering a lifetime or catastrophic protection on a hybrid-based solution. Many of the traditional plans have dropped it. There's one other carrier out there on a traditional side offering it. I don't think it's selling because it's quite expensive. Ours is very reasonably priced, and on top of it, guaranteed premiums. Because of the structure of our plan, we can offer the plan and do it economically as well. Next is our joint coverage. We're the only life-based and annuity-based that offers a solution and a true joint second to die, as opposed to splitting Bill and Mary up into 2 different policies like the other carriers. You're going to see a distinct advantage for doing that, both in benefit and duration. We can utilize qualified funds. This really should say we have a variety of funding methods, but everyone latches on to the qualified monies because they're so prevalent in the marketplace, especially for the baby boomers. We'll unpack that as well. I mentioned up front, we have the life and the annuity-based solutions. Now, we'll get into why the annuities are so important, but again, giving you variety that you don't have elsewhere, and as I'll try to really hone in on, a huge tax opportunity for anyone who has an existing book of annuity business. Last is, there's a lot of Johnny-come-latelys on the market, and I would just urge you to take a hard look at the benefits that they're offering and ask yourself what they learned in the last 5 to 8 years that we haven't picked up in the last 30, and does that make sense? So let's start with the catastrophic protection. Why do you buy insurance? Why do I own insurance, right? Are you paying hefty premiums for your homeowner's insurance to replace your roof, or is it a complete loss? For me, it's the loss, right? It's creating a stop loss on a risk that I can't pay for or are unwilling to pay for. So how's it any different really for long-term care? Should it be a coverage of that average 6 months to 6 years, or is it for that cognitive issue, the Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, stroke? I mean, we have got to concern ourselves with the outliers on that, because they represent about 20% of folks that end up needing care that go beyond 5 years. The average Alzheimer's stay pushing 8 years. I always say this is, it really matters, because if you play the averages, this is just a made-up scattergram. But if that were the average, how many of those dots are actually touching the average? There's many below and many above, and the hybrid-based solutions have the appeal because those that are below or don't even end up needing care, you always can promise that death benefit to the heirs, but it's the outliers at the top that end up having, like my great-grandmother, a 13-year stay that's concerning. The other piece of it is, this is a study done by the American Association of Long-Term Care Insurance. I can give you a link. In fact, I think one of these slides, it'll show you the link. But this is, why claims end on existing traditional long-term care carriers paying claims. This is at the end of 2018. It's the top 7 carriers, but I'm going to show you here the top 3 of those 7 that they highlight. But why do the claims stop? Well, obviously many of them pass away. Almost 73% just pass away. 14% recover. That's optimistic, but notice that nearly as many as recover exhaust their benefit, meaning they bought a 3 or 4 year plan and the claim ends, and then they're back to paying out of pocket. So here's just an examination, same study, same source, American Association of Long-Term Care Insurance. again, this is top 7. I'm just isolating the top 3. Look at the stays, the longest stays that they're experiencing, and notice that parenthetically at the top, they're still being paid, unless, of course, after this they passed away. Most think it's the females, and that first one makes sense. They're at 16 years. They've been paying this, 2.3 million. But notice the last 2 are males. They're at 2.2 and 2 roughly 1 million. Same time frame, 19 years actually. It's quite a bit longer, and 16 years. Now, I know many on the call, it's like, well, those are outliers, and, well, but remember, roughly 20% of those that go on claim for care end up having a stay longer than 5 years. That would far eclipse most benefits being sold today, 2 to 3 year benefit, right? What we're trying to do is create that stop loss. Now, how can we do that? We can do it on an individual basis. Of course, we write individual plans all the time, mostly on females because the husband's gone, either passed away or it's a divorce situation. But our claim to fame is the joint coverage. Now, this stacks us up against several other carriers in a similar format, where you have at the top here 150,000 to work with for a couple, both age 60, I believe their ages are. Well, with other carriers, you would have to split that 150 up into roughly $75,000 deposits. And you can see with the others, you're looking at a benefit monthly that is lower across the board, and the duration is only 6 years, as opposed to our solution providing a better, no, it's 61 and 60, a better benefit, 55.86 per month for the balance of their lives. For the same 150 going in, covering both of them, right? So something to consider when you're looking at the catastrophic and the joint coverage. How about qualified funds? Why is that a big deal? Well, I mean, if you look at the dollars that are out there, obviously the biggest portion of those are of a qualified nature. And as we unpack the use of qualified funds, you're going to see it dovetails in with several things, not the least of which is the elimination of the stretch IRA due to the Secure Act. We're going to give them not a way to stretch it. I don't want you to think that I'm telling you that we have a stretch IRA solution. It's an alternative to that does involve spreading out the taxation over 10 years, but can allow even those under age 59 and a half to avoid the 10% penalty of pre-59 and a half withdrawals and pack in long-term care coverage on an unlimited basis to include their spouse, and do it all following that drain in 10 rule that came down as a result of the Secure Act. And then, of course, the increase of the RMD age from 70 and a half to age 72. So the other piece, this is the annuity solution. Again, we're going to go through case studies that I will break down for you the difference between the life and the annuity, although conceptually they operate the same way. Why is the annuity a big deal? Well, if you look at the same source here, this American Association of Long-Term Care Insurance, this is going back 2017, found that of the declines that occur, meaning coverage that wasn't even able to be put in place, that 44%, nearly half of those declines occurred between 70 and 70 and a half, or excuse me, 70 and 79. Now, the reason that's a big deal is the average age we're writing our annuity-based solution is roughly 73. So it falls in the middle of the very group that the bulk of them are being denied coverage because of the risk element associated with that age, right? The health of the individual. With an annuity-based solution and it's streamlined underwriting, don't think there's no underwriting. It must be underwritten, at least a threshold level of underwriting, in order for it to receive that tax advantage or be deemed a Pension Protection Act compliant contract. All I'm trying to illustrate here is that there's a lot of the marketplace being denied coverage where that annuity-based solution with its easier underwriting could be the answer. And then finally, 30 years of experience. I don't really have a ton to say. I don't have a supportive slide to it other than that alone. 3 decades of offering plans that have made sense for folks, and that we have actually seen the claims experience to support our pricing. And it's come to pass that we feel like we have an answer that makes sense for the duration, right? For the duration. So let's get into some case studies. That was sort of an entry point for you. As I go through these case studies, I'm going to attempt to highlight each of those 5 areas, maybe outside of the 30 years, but the other materially, noticeably different aspects of our plans that you don't see with other solutions. Before we get into the case studies, let's unpack this problem. And Curtis gave me a great setup here because as we go into retirement, we're focused on really making sure that we have enough income at retirement. I mean, that's what sells annuities probably at IMS more than anything. Let's get your income taken care of. Well, what if your expenses accelerate or amplify by an additional 80 to 100,000 out of pocket a year? You're going to need a whole lot more income, right? Rather than, living on 125,000 a year that you've set them up to live on, they need 225,000 a year or what have you, right? That's the dilemma that we're all faced with. Well, not all of us, 70% of us are faced with that will require some long-term care. So here's what I mean by this. Either by choice or default, roughly 70% of us are going to experience long-term care and self-fund it. Again, either by choice or default. Outside of those that have pre-planned and bought an insurance contract to cover these costs, or rather take care of these additional expenses. So again, either by choice or default, what we're going to do is come out of pocket. I'm going with a conservative $80,000 a year each and every year. And if it goes beyond that average, it could consume enough of that portfolio where that, healthy spouse is eating cat food, or you eliminate the chance of that money's passing on to the heirs. When pre-planning could be done with less than a 2-year self-funding event, and you could create a stop loss. Or what I mean by that is, let's reposition what amounts to less than 2 of a self-funding outlay, right? It'd be 160 here, it's 150. We're repositioning 150,000. Now let's say this was a $1.5 million portfolio, right? We're carving out 10% and using in this case, life insurance, to lever that up on a joint second to die to roughly 185,000, of which they could access for long-term care if needed. And of course, if not needed, that would pass on to the heirs. Again, second to die, tax favored to the heir. So again, it's clear we're not trying to sell more life insurance, but putting in 150 and they only have 35,000 more than they put into it. Exactly. If they're buying it for life insurance, you're talking to the wrong company. We're trying to solve long-term care in the most economical way for the longest duration. If you want to try to balance life insurance and long-term care, that's a chronic illness rider on a life policy with very limited coverage, no joint, no lifetime, and it really can't even be called long-term care, right? It's a chronic illness rider, dread disease rider. I mean, materially, the NAIC doesn't allow you to call it that. My point is that we're only trying to solve for long-term care, period. Right? Having that death benefit go on to the heirs is a byproduct of not needing it for its purpose. And to prove that, on the back end of this death benefit to be paid for long-term care first is a rider that would cover them for the duration, for the rest of their lives, plural, because we're covering both here. So what have we done? We've moved 10% of a $1.5 million portfolio to save the other 90% to keep that healthy spouse, perhaps financially solvent, and or pass on more to the heirs, all with that same death benefit going to the heirs to answer that objection, right? So the care solutions, our OneAmerica plans, plural, come in 2 flavors, if you will. One on a life chassis, one on a life insurance chassis. If assets in the name, it's going to have a life insurance component to it. If it has annuity in the name, no surprise, it's going to have an annuity component to it. Now, it could be a fixed annuity, it could be fixed indexed, right? But either that annuity-based solution is PPA compliant, Pension Protection Act. Again, I'll unpack that. But that means that the tax benefits are tremendous, and they're going to allow you to repurpose existing annuities with large tax-deferred gains and create a tax-free income stream for long-term care. For those unfamiliar with that, that's a big benefit. So of our portfolio on the life and the annuity chassis, I'd mentioned there's roughly 3 solutions there. On the asset care, there's a single pay of cash, there's a single pay of what we call transfer, right? Or In this case, it could be 401k, IRA, could be a 1035 if you wanted to try to convert an annuity over to a life-based solution. That's an option, but it does involve income taxes on that method, right? The life-based method. Right? On the annuity-based solution, you can completely circumvent taxation altogether. But I don't want to forget our recurring premium plan. That's getting a lot more attention getting a lot more attention as well. So people don't want to reposition that lump sum or don't have the means to reposition it. They could do a 10 pay, 5 pay, 10 pay, 20 pay, all the way up to a pay to age 95, making it more affordable for more of the marketplace. Now on the annuity chassis, again, all PPA compliant solutions. I'm going to focus, as you see here, on single premium of cash. Actually, come to think of it, I think I'm going to cover qualified funds on my slides. So it may be this plan. We'll get into the slides here in a sec. But the annuity care is what I'm going to, annuity care 2 is what I'm going to cover on our annuity chassis. Realize there's an indexed and a fixed contract as well. Both of these can be written up to age 85. The plan I'm going to cover is up to age 80. So here is our plan simplified on a life chassis and annuity chassis, and tell me if these don't, when you see each, look, walk, and talk and smell the same. We have a base policy that is paid out for long-term care first, meaning you're using a death benefit, advancing that death benefit with the same triggers as long-term care insurance to pay for those covered expenses, including home care, assisted living, nursing, adult daycare, and it basically will cover for that short duration, generally 2 to 3 years, and it can be written on a first and, of course, our claim to fame, second to die. So try to look at this piece of it as a way, right, or as a waiting period, if you will, that being paid out first for that time frame for this rider. And the rider could either double the benefit, right? So let's say this is a 3-year payout. Well, you're going to add an additional 3 years, total of 6. Or as we push, as I obviously push with a 13-year great-grandmother stay, lifetime coverage. I own it, right? The lifetime protection. And this would extend that same benefit out. So this is like a long-term care insurance policy, quote unquote, big quotes, right? That has a 2 to 3 year elimination period. That's why if this is paid for annually, A, it's affordable, and B, they are guaranteed premiums. So let's go, yep, I did cover, I think, Curtis, you asked me to do the qualified fund. So it is the qualified solution we're looking at here for Bill and Mary, right? So let's walk through their scenario. They recently retired with solid assets to cover income needs. They thought self-funding long-term care expenses, right, like many, what was the way to go until Mary's mom was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and she saw the length of stay and the cost for that. Bill owns an IRA that was rolled over from an old employer's 401k. It's worth $250,000. They don't need it for income, and they always considered it that emergency money in case long-term care were, needed. So remember I said by choice or default, you're going to self-fund a long-term care. They're up to this point they had chose. This is what we're going to do. We're not going to buy long-term care insurance. We're going to take care of it ourselves. But Bill just got diagnosed with diabetes right now, controlled with diet and exercise, so it's low on the big spectrum of diabetes. But this was an additional wake-up call along with Mary's mom's Parkinson's disease. So this is, a snapshot of how the use of qualified funds works. And I know if you look at this, it looks like, the instructions for the game Mousetrap. But when you unpack it, not only does it lead to a huge opportunity for you to utilize these dollars, but it's actually pretty simple in the big scheme of things. So let's start with that existing $250,000 in an IRA that Bill owns. And remember, we're going to cover both Bill and Mary here. Right? Didn't need it for income, used it or planned to use it as a source to address long-term care out of pocket. They knew they were going to pay taxes on it, but they're going to pay taxes no matter what, right? They die, the kids are going to pay taxes. So they thought, well, let's utilize this. And knowing that it'll address a longer stay, maybe there's another way of utilizing it instead of self-funding. So here are the mechanics. We take the 250 and we, very important, direct rollover, right? This is 401k, 403b, it would be a rollover, but in this case, it'd be a direct transfer from this IRA to a qualified annuity, fixed annuity. And it's not designed to create some sexy yield or anything like that. All it is a place for that allows us to move qualified money over without paying any taxes, right? So it's moving to a fixed qualified annuity. Right? Now you receive a 20%. They receive a 20% bonus on that 250. You can do the math. That's 50,000. So now we're working with a total of $300,000 that then is used in taxable distributions. That's what the pinch point here is on the hourglass. So let's try to look at this hourglass. Everything up here is taxable. Everything down here is tax-free, be it the life insurance that we're going to create for long-term care and that extension rider. But it is funded with 10 years of taxable distribution. So Bill, right, is going to get a 1099 for 30,000 every year for 10 years, right? So that distribution is parceled out over 10 years to fund a 10-pay life policy on a second to die. So Bill and Mary are basically covered on that life policy expressly to be used for long-term care. But of that 30, roughly half of it, 15 and some change there, are buying nearly a $300,000 second to die death benefit, right? The rest of that money is apportioned, right? So roughly half of the 30 is apportioned to fund a 10-pay rider, a lifetime rider, by the way, right? So what are we doing? We are converting, or we're washing the taxes out of an IRA after getting a healthy bonus to fund both a 10-pay life policy that advances the death benefit for long-term care and an extension rider covering the pair, husband and wife, for the rest of their life. And what's the benefit? Well, it's all based on a 3% draw of this death benefit. Let's just say it was 300 at 3%, it'd be 9,000. And sure enough, it's pretty close to 89 at 89, 82 per month each. So God forbid they should both need care at the same time. You're looking at what, 17,000, right? Over that total per month, right? Or 89, 82. Now it's paid up to that amount, right? It's a reimbursement contract, and that would pay up to that amount each. And you can see if at 3%, you're drawing this down, it would last for roughly 33 months. It's a little over two years, just under 3-year payout. Now, if they both needed it, Bill and Mary, they each have access to it, as I said, but then you're going to exhaust it twice as quickly. So what, 16 and a half months later, you would have exhausted that death benefit. That's okay, because you purchased a rider that the moment this stops paying, the rider would kick in and continue to pay out at that same level each for the rest of their life. A good deal, right? You're basically going to use what otherwise would have amounted to $250 net of taxes. Gosh, maybe giving them $200,000, right? They're in a 25% tax bracket, and you've converted it with taxable distributions every year for 10 years at 30,000 to over 100,000 a year each for the rest of your life. Now, don't know about you, but self-funding on this 250 might not make the best sense when you can change it over to something like this. Now, that's just me, but it seems logical, right? So now let's shift over to the annuity-based solution. And boy, does this look familiar. This is the same schematic that I shared with you on the asset care or the life-based option, right? Instead of a base policy being, however, life insurance, right, like the asset care was, annuity care has an annuity as its base policy that is accessible, in fact, super liquid for long-term care, right? Just like 3% of the death benefit, in this case, you're able to access this annuity at roughly 4%, of the annuity value every month. That's each, because we're going to cover both of them on that policy. If you write it jointly, my example is going to be on an individual. My example would also be limited to a 5-year benefit. Even though I'm a big believer in the lifetime coverage, know that the lifetime coverage exists on our other annuity solutions. I want to be able to give you an option where it's, the most bang for the monthly buck, if you will, for long-term care, and squeeze the duration just a little bit, and also address a part of the market not served, or very limited served, those over age 70. Now back to the base policy. What does PPA mean? That again is Pension Protection Act. So if the annuity is of a non-qualified nature, you're going to get that benefit to you totally tax-free. So let me just repeat that. That's a big deal because you can 1035 exchange from an existing non-qualified annuity to this, and that existing annuity have sizable gains in that contract. So let's just shift, if they were, our previous couple were to have 250 in a non-qualified annuity instead of qualified, it's still going to have tax deferred gain in it and still have a tax consequence. Here, it's a way to convert that, again, via 1035 and eliminate the taxes on that gain. You heard me right. But again, it's only for long-term care. So again, that's your base policy. We'll unpack Pension Protection Act and what that means here in a moment. Suffice to say that the same, breakdown occurs. You can either add a rider for doubling that benefit, in my example, tripling the benefit or pretty close to it, and then of course, lifetime coverage. But it's the affordability of this that comes as a result of that annuity being paid out first and foremost. So let's talk and unpack this Pension Protection Act. First of all, it goes back to the PPA legislation, 2006 in reality. It's 1,832 pages on revising how pensions are treated in the US. Basically, it came as a result of the Enron debacle, I believe, right? And how those poor people end up getting, their pensions and everything ruined at the end of their career there, right? But a page and a half of this 2006 legislation establishes a style of non-qualified annuity that when used for long-term care in the future, it would be paid out regardless of the gain in the original annuity, tax-free. You heard me correct. So notice the date, January 1st, 2010. This is north of a decade-old piece of legislation. It was passed, inked in 2006. The PPA legislation didn't go into effect until this date. So ever since then, we have been getting 1035 exchanges of non-qualified annuities, leveraging them and providing a tax-free benefit instead of utilizing those in a self-funding nature where taxes and limited benefits could occur. So just as an example, here's remember that I keep saying non-qualified. I talked first about qualified. This is non-qualified money that we are focused on here. So I just want to, kind of stress that to everybody. The PPA legislation does not apply to qualified funds. So it's a non-qualified annuity that they started with let's just say it's 100,000 of basis, right? So they were, way back when sick of earning 4% in their CD and they put money in an annuity. Be thrilled to have that today, but there's the 100,000 going in, so they've had it, it's long in the tooth and had an additional 100,000 of gain in it. So this is the taxable piece. So left where it was, if needed for care, this piece would be taxable, even for long-term care, because this is not a PPA compliant annuity. 1035 exchanging that to one that is deemed PPA compliant, our case annuity care, you would end up making that whole pool of money, 200,000, free of income taxes for long-term care, right? You die, taxable to the extent of gain. You make withdrawals for other than long-term care, taxable to the extent of gain. The PPA legislation was the government's attempt to enable the insurance industry to build solutions by having tax advantages that would get more people to address long-term care. So the government doesn't, they don't have to rely on Medicaid to get that covered. 74 million individuals out there, they just can't do it, right? Now, in addition to eliminating the taxes, you have that optional rider that can lever that up for additional benefits, again, up to lifetime coverage. Now, that's not the case with Annuity Care 2. It is limited to the 5-year benefit, but very not limiting for Marie here, who otherwise would be told no when it comes to a hybrid-based solution, because many of them have, because of COVID, cut off the age in which they're willing to accept business. Other carriers out there, usually 65, 70, they won't write beyond that. Even with our own asset care currently under COVID, they can only fund it over age 70 on a lump sum. They can't do our annual pay. So even our own life contracts has minor, compared to the others, minor limitations. But with Annuity Care 2 and all of our annuity solutions, over age 70 is acceptable, right? Now, it is a single pay contract, but it is the ability to 1035 a non-qualified annuity. So Marie is retired now, with, has been for a while, solid assets and a pension to cover her income needs, but concerned about long-term care expenses jeopardizing the inheritance to her kids. Self-funding didn't seem like it was the best choice after investigation. Now, being, again, over age 70, it prevents her from purchasing other hybrid-based solutions, and including our asset care, our life-based, because of her age, on an annual pay basis. She owns an existing non-qualified annuity worth $200,000, just like the previous schematic, and there was $100,000 of basis, $100,000 of gain. It's at a guaranteed interest rate of 2.5%. These contracts are out there. And I know for many would look at this and go, I really can't do anything. If I move it to anything less than 2.5, it's not suitable. That's not true. That's not true. Right? Here is the rule. To make it a suitable 1035 exchange, make it a suitable exchange, you have to provide additional benefits to the clients. Now, the problem is everybody only focuses, they seem to only focus on the benefit of an annuity being interest rate, right? And that's not the only benefit, especially at post PPA. So we're going to talk about how we can move this without any issue to our guarantee of 1%. And I always take it, oh, that's heresy. We get them all day long, right? Because it is providing additional value in leverage and tax advantage. So without long-term care coverage, she sort of was in a reluctant self-funding position, utilizing this 200 taxable as her source. Let's see how that might look. If she left it where it was, right, 200,000, and she did nothing and needed it for care, let's say for home care, those withdrawals would yield roughly 175. Now let's go through 100,000 basis, 100,000 of gain. She's in a 25% tax bracket. Net of taxes, 25,000 comes off the top. She's going to end up with 175 as a self-funding account, having left it where it was. And I know some of you think, well, she could write that off. Yeah, but she has to itemize in order to do that. And tax, free is a lot different than tax write-off, if you will, right? So the solution might be for her, and it obviously was because this is based on a case, is to 1035 her existing annuity to a PPA, Pension Protection Act compliant annuity. That alone eliminates the tax piece. So if she left it where it did nothing else, she would still end up with 200 as opposed to 175, and the government getting, taxes on 25% of it. Internal charges, however, also tax-free. That's on the Annuity Care 2 solution. Those internal charges buy her an additional bucket of money to be used for long-term care, or in this case, 300,000 more to be used for long-term care. So now she has no growth, almost no growth. I mean, it's a guarantee of 1, but the internal charges are going to end up eating what little growth she has. So the annuity is just stagnating, but now worth $500,000 without any taxes for long-term care, and paying her per month $8,300 for 5 years. Right now, let's just back up. And if you don't think that's a good deal, right, ask yourself, if this was your mom and you sold her this annuity and you were her only provider, right, and she was in Poughkeepsie and you're in Tucson, that's a heck of a commute. So net of taxes, 175, and then we got to figure out how to undo the rest of her portfolio, or reposition this money. Not that you would do it for this reason, but you earn a decent commission there, right? And lever it up to $500,000, and she pays no taxes. It lasts for 5 years, keeping you in Tucson, her happy in Poughkeepsie, or move her to Tucson. Maybe it's more affordable than upstate New York. Who knows? So the bottom line is this provides her leverage and liquidity for long-term care, all while eliminating income taxes on an otherwise taxable contract. So in our few closing minutes here, I want to take a moment and let you know of some training and marketing tools that are available. and then we'll hand it back to Curtis. Just give me about 2-3 more minutes, Curtis, and we'll have it wrapped up. Now, real quick, the product suite, as I had mentioned, is more robust than what I just covered, all right? There's other ways of going about this. Now, every week I do training, not this week, because Curtis knows I'm taking this week off for Thanksgiving, but each week I do a case study every 15 minutes. It's typically done on Monday. We set this session up in lieu of that. Next is we do training every Tuesday. They're hour-long training on asset care and annuity care. And I know many of you think, I don't have an hour, right? Well, there are 15-minute segments that I do an overview and then each of the 3 plans. So it's modular in that you can plug in and learn about various solutions and funding methods on both the life and the annuity chassis. So this is Monday. Each of these are Tuesday, 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and I have a whole schedule for that. I also have these sessions recorded for those of you who wish to kind of go through, and it's called autodidact. I learned this from my English major wife, which means self-study. And it's available to you 24/7. We can get you a link for that as well. Does both the, notice it's just one, it's a little over an hour, one's just under an hour, but that, the individual full sessions as well as the individual segments, right? There's a video you want to start with. It's just 90 seconds. It'll help you navigate that page. Next is we have the OneAmerica marketing store. This is a marketing platform available to you to take all consumer approved materials and disseminate that out to your database through social media, you name it. So this marketing platform can allow you to schedule a drip marketing campaign, right, of consumer approved material that is customized with your picture and your contact information. You don't have to worry about compliance because it's all been pre-approved for you, as well as social media bundles that you can post on all main platforms, which are LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And then Curtis, just so that you know, all of your marketers have the ability to do the same thing through the marketing store, only at the producer level. So we have the consumer level, producer level. And this just sort of breaks down print material, email marketing, social media, translations is for different languages. And here's just some of the content that you can find in there. And what could be, notice it says customizable to make it unique to your contact information or your company. We launched 2 months ago Experience Care Solutions. This is a consumer approved website. Now just think through that for a second. If you were to go build this yourself, you would have to have it built at a cost. You'd have to maintain it at a cost, and you'd have to make sure that it's compliance approved, right? Because it's going out to consumers. We've done all of that for you and allowed you to make this too customizable. So it is, as you'll see, and you can go to it right now if you wish, but don't do that because I have only a minute left. Just grant me that last minute. But after the session, go to Experience Care Solutions and you're going to see a site that starts here. And as you click through each one of these, you'll see very clearly that it is an educational session for your clients, educational material. It is not a rah-rah session for OneAmerica. But you'll notice it says contact us. Actually, it says get started now. This is just some of the content, right? I am clicking kind of through the main areas. There's that 20% that have a stay longer than 5 years. And then it gets into, hey, let's talk about maybe making some solutions and why these plans might make more sense. Again, when it was launched, that was generic, meaning you got down to the end, it said next steps, and it says contact your financial professional. You don't want that. I mean, they could go anywhere if they wanted to. Instead, we now make it customizable. So picture yourself here, your contact information. This just pulls from my profile, right? So you have now we're handing to you a website that you could build through the marketing store that you can distribute out to clients. Now, what would be a good time to do that? Of course, November, which is Long-Term Care Awareness Month. So that's another way that we can provide you the kind of tools to get the word out and to hopefully create some opportunities for IMES to quote some cases for you. So Curtis, with that, I covered the ground that I wanted to, and feel free to wrap up.
Absolutely. And Roger, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the call with us today. And
You're
for
welcome.
everybody on the call, I hope what you saw is the same thing that we do over here, which is that you can create significant amounts of leverage. And these products can show clients how to generate better leverage, yield, and how we can reposition assets into a more tax advantage format. And so it's a great opportunity, again, to address one of the core or a couple of the core risks in retirement that can really eat away at a nest egg. So as Roger had mentioned, November is LTC Awareness Month. And so I would encourage all of you, we did put together an LTC Awareness Month marketing package that is predominantly oriented around asset-based long-term care. And so we've got some good point of sale pieces. We've got some good educational information in there. We've also got a number of marketing and advertising pieces in there as well. So I would encourage you to, if you don't have that yet, and that's the other thing too, is November is Long-Term Care Awareness Month. This is a good package that you can use at any time throughout the year. But reach out to a sales director. The phone number is 800-255-5055. And I want to, again, thank everybody for being on the call today. Hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving and look forward to chatting with you. Thanks.